Well, hello everybody. Welcome to episode 3 of the Smark Avengers, aka the Good Boys Reading Comics, aka Pasta Boy, aka the Chuckle Hut, where we're going to be doing stand-up comedy. Right now, I have a brick wall and some neon signs getting delivered to Dylan's house, so he can do us a tight 15. Dylan, what's your best stand-up routine? Go.
What's the deal with good night, everybody. How long was that? Was that 15 minutes?
Yeah.
Give or take.
Well, I mean, yeah, exactly. Given the conversion between time here in the United States and time in the UK, I'm sure it was 15 minutes.
We'll fix it now today to make it seem like 15 minutes.
I'll just make it super slow motion.
Yeah.
I'm just reminded of that one episode of that podcast you did where somebody referenced a song and then you're like, I'll put it in there somewhere. And then like 7 minutes went by and it was on for 10 seconds. Completely unrelated to anything and referencing things that you probably have never heard or listened to. That's how we roll here sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
Great moment in comedic genius of Dylan.
Well, thank you.
Anyway, go ahead, Dylan.
Well, I just wish I'd prepared more, but I didn't realize this was going to be the time when I do my comedy routine. So maybe next time you guys that's a cliffhanger for listening to the next episode.
All right, John, your turn. Let's hear your best stand up.
Okay. What do you get when you cross a sheep and a kangaroo?
What?
A woolly jumper. Oh, but you call them sweaters in America.
We call them sweaters.
God damn it.
Oh boy, we are nailing it, John, aren't we? We are killing it.
Yeah.
I don't have a joke, but I don't even necessarily if you call it a joke or not, but what do you call a day spent in a well?
Thursday.
A day spent well.
There you go. Anyway,
it's a great intro. I hope you guys are still listening.
Right. Well, I think we talk about comics here, as John was implying.
Mm-hmm.
So, last week that or whatever basis we're putting this out, could be a week, could be a month, who knows. When we last met, we discussed Marvel's Ultimatum event and the Ultimate Universe as a whole, and we discussed sort of new takes on iconic characters. So this time, what we decided to do is we were going to compile a list of characters who aren't nearly as iconic. Might be a little obscure, might be a little weird. Basically, what we're going to do is each of us are going to go around the table. I'm sitting at a desk. I don't know what your guys' sitting situation is, but we're going to go around in an imaginary figurative table to discuss one of our picks, and then we'll move on to the next. Dylan, you want to start us off?
Me?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I think part of this conversation came about because we have been privately discussing a character who is called Armless Tiger Man. And I felt like a character called Armless Tiger Man deserves more recognition within the comics community. It's strange that a character like this hasn't got his own Marvel spin-off TV show. I'm waiting patiently for this to happen. So I thought I'd tell you a little bit about Armless Tiger Man. Very famous character. So he has no arms. Armless Tiger Man. He does a lot of his fighting with his feet and his unusually large teeth because he's a tiger man, I suppose. He's a really old character. I believe he was around I think it's what they call the golden age of comics with like the original Captain America, that kind of time.
Yeah.
And he used to fight a character called the Angel, who is not the Angel that we're familiar with from the X-Men, an old school Angel. And he was around, I would say, the World War II era of comics. Whenever, during World War II in America, some people were looked at as the enemy. And a lot of the time it was the Nazis. But in America, sometimes it was like, just vaguely Asian people because that's close enough. They were at war with the Japanese, but they're like, well, just if you look a little bit Asian, you're probably bad. Which, obviously now America doesn't feel like that at all. America has conquered its racism, and it's a shining beacon to the rest of the world. So if you were to Google armless Tiger Man, you might be a little bit disturbed at the face, the whole demeanor,
The face
the whole
is a
thing.
lot.
But he's quite a character, and I hope he makes a comeback. Armless Tiger Man. His real name is Gustav Hertz. So you're like, what? What country is he from? Gustav. There you go.
I will say that when you brought him up to us originally, and I did a Google search, two things I saw was he does seem vaguely racist. And also, I saw a panel of him holding a hammer with his feet.
Yeah, he can climb. So he's like the beast. He can use his feet to climb and hold stuff because he doesn't have any arms.
He also doesn't look like a tiger as well.
At all. He doesn't even have tiger stripes on his outfit.
No, he doesn't look like a tiger. But I assume back in the day it was harder to know what a tiger looked like. These days we got the internet, we got to go to a zoo. But World War II, I don't know what a tiger is. It could be anything, So if anybody listening to this, guys, just go Google Armless Tiger Man. I think you'll have a good time, and maybe we can remember this classic character for give him a good send off. Can
I ask a follow-up question regarding Armless Tiger Man?
I mean, yes, but I pretty much told you everything I know about this character. So go ahead, and I will give you some sort of answer.
Did he have arms before he gained his powers, or did the process of gaining his powers make him lose his arms?
I believe that he just didn't have any arms and was born a freak with long teeth, but also became adept at using his feet for fighting purposes. Because if you have no arms, you have to adapt.
Absolutely. So
that's how I understand it.
John, you want to go next?
Yeah. So I was gonna go for a character by the name of 3D Man, who was created in the 70s by Roy Thomas, a famous comic book writer who has created lots of famous characters over the years. But this was sort of paying tribute to a Jack Kirby and Joe Simon character called Captain 3D, who was in the 50s, back when 3D comics had a bit of a boom period. So the idea was that they'd debut him in Marvel Premiere. I can't remember what issue it was, but and they would make it an old school style 3D comic. Until they realized, we don't actually have the budget for this, so we'll just do it as a regular 2D comic instead. So it was like a weird 3D hook. They basically wanted to revitalize to create a character, and then that when you actually read the comic, he was just a guy wearing green and red, basically. But he had a weird backstory as well, where it was basically is not just one person, it's two brothers. So the Chandler brothers, it was Chuck and Hal, and Chuck was a experimental fighter pilot who got captured by Skrulls, and then there was some sort of explosion when he tried to escape from the Skrull ship, and he got hit with this radiation, and then that made him kind of disappear out of our dimension almost, but it put a weird imprint on his brother's glasses or goggles or whatever they were. So whenever his brother really concentrated really hard, then Chuck would reappear in the guise of 3D Man with he'd basically have 3 times the strength and the durability, and the speed, but then he could only appear for like 3 hours at a time as well.
I love how they stuck to the number 3.
Oh, of course, yeah.
He's 3D man. None of the rest of this premise has anything to do with actually being in 3D. So we'll just make up some bullshit and then just put the number 3 in there a lot. You know,
I imagine there must have been some confusion whenever somebody would like find out his name and they're like, "I'm 3D man," and they just kind of look around. Well, we're all in the 3D.
we're all 3D.
Yeah.
man.
Yeah, we talking about it. Oh, but I'm 3D because I live in my brother's glasses. They're like, oh, that kind of 3D.
That
I
explains
get
so
you.
much.
Mm-hmm.
That makes sense, you know, like not proper 3D, but like that bullshit fake 3D, you know.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's unbelievable. That one's pretty good. Like, even for comics, you feel like that whole premise right there is a little labored. You know,
Yeah.
there's a lot going on there just to get to a guy who's like 3 times as strong as a normal man. You know what I mean?
It's a bit busy.
Yeah, there's a lot going on there. With old 3D man. So far we've done 2 people and we've got 2 arms.
Yep. Well, you're about to have 3 people with 4 arms.
Oh, interesting.
So when we first discussed this, I had to put a rule on myself that I was not going to make a list entirely of characters that were from DC's Legion of Superheroes, which is a team of characters from the future that all come from planets that give them very specific powers. And every now and then in the 1960s or 70s, they would have like an issue where they would recruit new people to join the team, and they would have auditions, and the auditions would introduce a character that ultimately probably would not stick around. So I had choices. The first one is one that I talked to you about previously, which is Matter Eater Lad, who's somebody whose power is that they can eat anything.
Uh-huh.
But I was like, well, you know, I don't want to necessarily, he's kind of one of the more famous Legion characters. And then because I knew you were going to do Armless Tiger Man, I was going to do Arm Fall Off Boy.
What?
Yes, Arm Fall Off Boy, who came from a planet that gave him this ability that he could remove his arm and use it as a blunt weapon. That was his entire power.
Why have you never told me about this guy before? This sounds like I wrote that. That's incredible.
Yeah, his name is Arm Fall Off Boy. You should absolutely look him up.
Why? Boy, they didn't even try.
Like I said, he was just a character that auditioned to be in the group, and he ultimately wasn't chosen. There's another example of a character is Color Kid. Color Kid, who has the ability to make things change colors. Do they get any abilities? No. Are they like irradiate or anything? No. It's just if he looked at your computer, he could go, now your computer is red, and now you have a red computer. And that's the full extent of his powers.
That's pretty good.
So the character that I wanted to talk about is somebody who I feel like on paper has the most like overused power, but the application is fascinating. I'm going to tell you about Stone Boy. Stone Boy comes from a planet called Zwin, and his power is stone mimicry, where much like the Thing, he can turn his body into stone. So he gets like super strength and super durability. The downside to Stone Boy is the second he does that, he can't move. So he just turns into stone, and that's it. He's a statue. People traditionally use him as a weapon. So he turns into stone, and then somebody with super strength will pick him up and use him as like a bat.
What if he breaks though? If he's being used as a weapon,
can't break.
Was this all from like one series?
Yes, Legion of Superheroes.
Okay.
They're, like I said, they're all characters from the far future, who all come from different planets that have different abilities.
I really
by the way,
you talked about Arm Fall Off Boy more, because that's
the full extent of Arm Fall Off Boy. That's
instantly
it.
Is my
That's
favorite.
all the extent. The full extent of Stone Boy is he also applied to be in the Legion of Superheroes and was rejected because his power was deemed useless in a fight.
I disagree. I feel like you could drop him from like a height. You know, like if the bad
yeah,
guys,
but he's not getting up there himself.
right? But if, like, say the bad guys are on the bottom floor, and there's like you're at the like a top of a stairwell or whatever, you know, and you're up there with somebody who is strong, and the bad guys are down there, and you're like, I want to turn into stone, so you do that, and then the strong guy pushes you off the ledge, and then you fall down on top of them. Like that could work, you know?
Sure.
So that's that. There's a use. I could use that. You could invent some kind of like catapult system where he could sit in it and then turn to stone, and then you catapult him towards people. You know? I can write this character. I can write this guy.
By the way, I did send you guys a picture, a panel of Arm Fall Off Boy.
Oh, well, I have to look at it. We're gonna look at this live on the show. Yeah. You can't see me looking at this, unfortunately. It's just for the Patreon people.
I want you to read the panel and the sound effect.
Okay, let me see.
Plop.
Oh, my thing won't load. I can't see it.
He looks kind of like Batista in this panel.
He does.
So when we do the film adaptation, he's wrapped up with Marvel.
Yeah. James Gunn's taken over DC movies.
Yeah,
now
he's
as well.
buddies with James Gunn. So yeah, we could absolutely make Arm Fall Off Boy a reality.
I love the way that he says, "My power will astound you." He's not wrong.
Observe as I detach my limb.
You would be astounded if a man was like, "Hey, well, look at this," and he pulled his arm off. You'd be like, "Yep, Jesus, that's pretty fucking weird."
Holy hell!
I'm astounded by that. That's really quite astonishing. Didn't expect that. I wouldn't call it a power, but you know, congratulations.
So Dylan, we are back around to you. Who are you gonna astound us with next?
I'm gonna astound you with a character from the X-Men. You know, well, he's a mutant basically, and you know, there were so many mutants. There was a point in time. I guess maybe we've come around again to where there's still a lot of mutants because you know.
Well, they're all alive again.
Yeah, I don't know if this guy's alive though, and I'll tell you why. Because if you're a writer, you probably would have no reason to bring him back. I think there was no reason to make him a character to begin with. That's the kind of guy we're going to talk about. Have you guys ever heard of a mutant called Jazz?
No.
No,
excellent.
I don't think so.
That makes it perfect for this list. I want you guys to guess real quick what this guy's power is. Here's a little hint. None of the powers we've talked about so far on the list are his powers. So he has both his arms, for example.
Okay.
Can he make people fall asleep by playing the saxophone?
No.
Can he turn into a car like the Transformer of the same name?
No. Do you
I'm
guys
all
give
out
up?
of ideas.
You guys give up?
Yeah.
His mutant ability is he is blue.
And
He has blue skin. And he is blue, and he is a mutant. And apparently his only mutation is that he is blue. So he was a mutant who was in a little section of the Marvel comics called Mutant Town.
Yeah.
I'm not sure it even exists anymore. They probably knocked it down.
No, it got wiped out.
There you go. That'll do it. He was hopelessly addicted to drugs. As we all are. I mean, if you're a mutant whose only power is to be blue, you got to pass the time somehow. Then we all know that M-Day happened. No more mutants. The decimation. Only 195 mutants.
Was it 199?
Was it?
No, it was 197, I think.
197. So only 197 mutants kept their mutant powers. Out of all the ones that were no longer mutants, Jazz was one of the 197. I don't even know if you would class him as a mutant, but yes, they counted him as one of the 197, which was great because, like I said, his power was that he's blue. And then during the whole 197 thing, they killed him off anyway.
Yeah.
So why not just like, you know what I mean? What was the purpose of this character? Why not just have him lose his blue ability in the decimation? No, fuck it. We're gonna keep him just so we can get him killed by a different mutant.
So
So-
I decided to look him up on Comic Vine. The character that killed him also could have fit on this list really well.
Johnny D.
Johnny D, a mutant with a
Yes.
tentacled face on his chest, which
he
can
has, like-
create voodoo dolls.
Yes, if you put like any kind of like DNA, like a hair strand or some skin or whatever, into the face of the tentacle monster on Johnny D's stomach, it creates it pops out like a little gachapon of the person whose DNA you put in, and then he can manipulate it like a little puppet, and that's how he kills people.
It doesn't help that the tentacled face in the middle of his chest looks like a butthole as well. There's a lot going on here.
Well, like, don't you think that in a list of like really obscure, stupid characters, Jazz is much stupider and more obscure than Johnny? Because at least like, I know they didn't, but they could have done stuff with Johnny D. You know.
Well, so and that's kind of the beauty of the X-Men, is that they created so many different ones that eventually they just, like, of course there are people who have mutant powers that are not useful in any way.
Yes.
I think, like, so the reason I know Mutant Town is I'm a big fan of Peter David's X Factor.
Yes.
And when the series first launched, X Factor was in Mutant Town, and crossover events and everything eventually forced them out of it. But there was a case they had one time that involved a woman who, when she had like the Human Torch's power but none of the invulnerability, so when she got mad, she like basically flamed on, but then just severely burned herself all over.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, the X-Men are full of the X-Men world is full of really fun, bizarre mutations that are not helpful or just deadly to yourself.
Right. No spoilers, but I may come back to the X-Men as a character like that at some point in the show.
Nice.
So you know.
So John, you're up next.
Well, I think all of our characters so far, we've definitely got too many arms involved. So
not all of them.
So my next character is one by the name of Hell Cow.
I was begging for it to be armless, like lion girl or something.
No,
Hell
this is
Cow.
which is an actual cow by the name of Bessie, who in the 1670s was bitten by Dracula. And then she spent the next 300 years just like terrorizing people, and eventually made her way to the United States, to Corey's stomping grounds of Ohio, and then she encountered Howard the Duck, who was investigating all these farmers getting murdered and having their blood drained, so Howard the Duck staked Bessie and seemingly put her down, only for her to come back again, a few years later. Because obviously, vampiric cow is the kind of idea that you don't want to put to bed too long.
Yeah, it's money. There's real money in that one.
And I think she had a run-in with Deadpool. But yeah, that's about the extent of her comic book history.
She also was
remember.
She was also in Lego Marvel.
What?
Really?
She's also in Lego Marvel, apparently.
What? Hi.
Yeah, you just a little Lego Hell Cow.
Yeah, it's probably because Lego had a model of a cow anyway, and they're like, well, we'll just recolor it.
Well, the Hell Cow had like a proper, Dracula cape and everything.
Yes, she's got fangs.
Yeah. Just to make
Obviously.
sure you knew, she was a vampire.
Yeah. Is this cow really from hell? Oh, he's got fangs. Hello. Changed my mind. Because most cows, I can't confirm, most cows do not have fangs. So there you go.
Yeah, as a farmer.
Little piece of trivia for you. All the ones we have anyway. We don't have. There's no fangs. You know.
You don't have any vampiric cows running around Northern Ireland.
Dracula is not a big thing around here, which is weird. You'd think he'd love it over here. There's no sun. You know.
By the way, I did send you guys a picture of Lego Hell Cow.
Oh, we gotta see this. Gotta see this. Let me have a look at Lego Hell Cow. Wow, that looks really cool. It's the coolest one so far, right?
Yeah.
So my next one is a character that's usually on lists. If you ever search for like most obscure or weirdest comic book characters, they're always on this. Are you familiar with Snowflame?
No.
Snowflame.
Would you like to take just a guess at what Snowflame's powers are derived from?
Snow and flames. So
Seems
both.
like a good shout.
Yeah.
No, cocaine. Snowflame is a supervillain who is powered by cocaine.
Oh
wow.
God.
Yes, the power listed is unique physiology. Gains superpowers upon snorting cocaine.
Oh.
This is a DC character from the great. Well, I mean, what decade do you think of when you think of cocaine consumption?
It gotta be the 80s, right?
1988.
Yep.
It's the 80s. Do some coke and vote for Ronald Reagan. So yeah, Snowflame was in a comic book series called New Guardians, which is a book series that also had a bunch of random characters in it. And yeah, on the DC wiki, it just says other characteristics, drug addiction. So, you know.
Really?
Yeah, and there's the quote, I am Snowflame. Every cell of my being burns with white hot ecstasy. Cocaine is my god, and I am the human instrument of its will.
Oh, Christ.
So because racism is still very much a thing and stereotypes, of course, would you like to guess what country Snowflame is from?
Colombia?
Yeah.
Colombia.
Jesus Christ.
And that's the tell of Snowflame. I think Snowflame showed up in a comic in the last like decade or so, but I mean, you can't top this 1988 one-issue depiction of the villain powered by cocaine.
I like how at some point they brought him back. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, they were like, well, we gotta.
Yeah. Because like the nostalgia, you know, everybody loves the 80s. Let's just everybody loves cocaine. Bring us back, you know. Problem solved.
All right, Dylan, we're right back around to you.
All right. Well, here's another one that I was talking about off mic to you guys. This is a character from Spider-Man that some people might be familiar with. He is a character called the Big Wheel. Now, John is familiar with the Big Wheel. Corey, how familiar are you with the Big Wheel?
I think I've seen the Big Wheel in an issue of Iron Man recently.
Possibly,
but if I could very well be mistaken.
Possibly because for some reason they brought him back. It's one of those things, quite like Snowflame or whatever, where you're like, I get why somebody made this character and then forgot about it. I don't know why somebody thought 30 years later, we got to bring this fucking guy back, right? So, do you know what the Big Wheel's full name is?
No.
Bear in mind that you know that he is basically a man encased inside a big wheel.
As the name would imply, Big Wheel is in a big wheel.
Yes. His name is Jackson Wheel. His surname is Wheel, but there's an extra E at the end, so it's a real surname.
Ah, nice.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So he, as if this couldn't get any better. This is a guy who was a businessman who was embezzling funds from his company and started to do business with, you know, one of the most popular Spider-Man villains of all time, Rocket Racer. So you know this is quality across the board. He started doing a deal with Rocket Racer. Rocket Racer made fun of this guy. So you're like, how much of a loser is he? So Jackson Wheel thought, I'm going to get revenge on Rocket Racer by going to the person who made Rocket Racer's outfit, the Tinkerer, and saying, hey, can you make me an outfit so I can beat up Rocket Racer? And the Tinkerer, obviously going on some kind of weird vehicle-based insanity, was like, yes, the way you can fight the Rocket Racer is by being a big wheel that has guns and arms and shit. I can climb up walls. So if you're driving the big wheel contraption towards a building, don't worry about it. You don't have to turn left. Just go up the building. Simple. So obviously, go ahead. You have questions?
So the Tinkerer basically just got super into watching Wacky Racers and decided to make their own.
Yeah, I love how at some point the Tinkerer was like, I just can't be arsed. I just cannot be bothered. Your name's Wheel. Here's a wheel. You know.
I feel like we could do an entire episode of this just on the villains that the Tinkerer created.
Sounds like it, doesn't it? Because Rocket Racer is also not really a quality character. So at some point, the big wheel, because he's a big fucking wheel driving around New York, he comes in contact with Spider-Man. He's like, what the fuck? Why is there a big wheel up the side of this building? He also comes in contact with Rocket Racer because he wants to get his revenge on him. But of course, the big wheel is not very good at driving. He's only just got this fucking thing. Didn't have a time to, take it for a test drive. So he accidentally drives his big wheel into the Hudson River.
Well, because he can't turn.
Well, he can turn. He just didn't know how, or I don't know. He's just an idiot, right? No. What happened was, after this happened, he was supposed to be dead, right? That's the whole point. He was a shitty villain, so he just drowned in his own idiocy, and then we forget about it. But then, like, due to the way comics are, they're like, we can't think of any new people. We'll just bring back all the old classics, such as the Big Wheel. So they brought him back for some reason, where he became kind of like a good guy. He tried to make up for his past and tried to be a good guy. Didn't do very well at that. So he then became like a demolition derby driver in his Big Wheel. And I think he's been on some adventures after that. So he might have been in Iron Man.
Yeah, I just sent you guys a panel from it. This is Iron Man, I think, from maybe last year.
Oh, good. So he's still kicking ass. I know there was a point where a character in Spider-Man not that long ago called Overdrive found the big wheel contraption and turned it into something else. So he's had a surprisingly long run for a character who is utterly terrible.
And he was in the Spider-Man animated TV series back in the day as well.
Yeah.
Wait, was he in the 90s series?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Holy hell. I do not recall.
How could you not remember the big wheel?
And he faced the Rocket Racer in that as well.
Bingo. Well, you can't have a Rocket Racer storyline without putting the big wheel in there.
Oh, God, no.
Ridiculous, So he's a big deal. He's a big wheel, if you will. Sorry.
Well, on that note, John, I believe it's your turn again.
Yeah, good luck topping the big wheel.
Okay, well, I will introduce you guys to a woman by the name of Thursday Rubenstein, who who took on the villainous name Ruby Thursday.
Wait a minute, she changed her name? Why would that be a villain with that name?
Well, I guess she wanted to do a riff on the Rolling Stones song Ruby Tuesday, but she's Ruby Thursday instead. Cause
I like the idea of her like having to protect her identity. She's like, I better change my name so nobody will know that it's me.
She's a strange cat though, so I mean, like, I can understand her having weird decisions about changing her name, because basically what she did was she was like a scientist or something, and then she decided to replace her head with this like organic computer
Replace
in the
her
shape.
head.
Yes.
You took her head off.
Yeah, basically.
It says grafted.
But yeah, in effect, her head got replaced by this massive red orb, which had the power to kind of form these weird tentacles and shoot just random energy blasts.
Ooh, that
and
is
stuff.
horrific looking.
Yeah, it's pretty gnarly stuff. And she was part of a crew called the Headmen. And she actually tried running for the presidency of the United States as well. Only to get exposed and kind of revealed to be a bad guy.
I love
Trust
that.
me,
They're
it's
like,
not the
wait a
first time we
minute.
would have voted for a bad guy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the person with the weird robot orb head with tentacles coming out of it happens to be a bad person.
Who'd have thunk it? Yeah.
I didn't see that coming at all.
But I was introduced to her in like Daniel Way's Wolverine run from about 10, 12 years ago. Sort of in the big kind of dramatic conclusion to that run where Wolverine is chasing Romulus, who's like this. He's basically like the original Wolverine going back thousands of years, who's spawned all the kind of wolf-like mutant characters over the years. Yeah, so for some reason, Ruby Thursday was part of Wolverine's plan to get at Romulus, and I have no idea how she factored into it, other than the fact that Romulus would kind of capture her, or at least like threaten to kill Ruby's kid if she didn't reveal what Wolverine's plan was. So
Get a kid?
yeah, apparently so.
Wolverine has several kids.
Oh no, this was Ruby Thursday who had
Well,
a
I
kid.
mean, I've sent you guys some photos of her. I'm glad to see that her design wasn't misogynistic, considering she has a very low cut top, a high cut waist, and a tiny red orb for a head.
Oh yeah.
The second picture you sent, you guys can't see it, but the second picture, this even though it's like a tiny head, like that head is so small on her regular sized body. It looks stranger than the fact that it is an orb with
Yeah.
tentacles coming out of it.
Like I said, I mean, you know, I'm not surprised she had a kid if she's walking around like that.
Who went up?
Yeah,
with
that's
you
a
know who I'm really
question,
attracted to? That lady with a fucking orb for a head.
Well, I guess we can continue on the weird villain path. This is a character that's famous if you're a Doom Patrol fan. The Animal Vegetable Mineral Man.
What?
The Animal Vegetable Mineral Man.
Uh-huh.
He has the ability to change part of his body into animal, vegetable, or mineral, or combine them all. His most usual design has half of his face replaced with a Tyrannosaurus Rex. Not like half a Tyrannosaurus Rex's head, but like a full Tyrannosaurus Rex coming out of his head.
Are you kidding me?
Not at all. Look him up. You want me to send you a picture again?
Oh, absolutely. I fucking did. I cannot believe that's real. I did a episode of Animal Crossing where I was pretending that I had superpowers, and one of my powers was my arms could turn into dinosaurs.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this guy fucking, somebody had that idea. That was the stupidest thing I could think of.
1960s.
Oh my God. What is the matter with people?
Well, like I said, the Doom Patrol, even back in the day, was this idea of like, what's the weirdest stuff that we can do? And someone's like, the Animal Vegetable Mineral Man, I suppose.
Mhm.
That was up there.
He made it into the TV show. So if you watch the HBO Max Doom Patrol season 1, the Animal Vegetable Mineral Man shows up.
Oh my goodness. Look at this fucking guy. Why is he not more popular?
I think it's just the fact he's the Animal Vegetable Mineral Man is why he's not more popular.
I think so. I think if he had a better name, right? If he had a more catchy name, he would be super over. You know what I mean?
Is he a good guy or a bad guy, or?
Oh, he's a villain.
He
Is
doesn't
he?
look good, does he?
You know, maybe.
I mean, here's a comic book from the 1960s where he's declaring the world is mine while holding Animal Man in his hand.
It's very strange.
As you can see, it is most of a T-Rex coming out of the side of his face.
I like how there's Animal Man there, and this guy's like, I'm Animal Man, and also Vegetable Man and Mineral Man.
Well, you see he's fighting Man-Thing and Concrete. Man-Thing has more of a plant base to him, and Concrete is just a big rock, you know.
Very clever.
So
very clever. See,
so
there's
yeah.
layers. There's layers.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it all works.
Absolutely. But yes, of the characters we've discussed so far, I think the Animal, Vegetable, Mineral Man is the only one who has a live action depiction.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
Although Big Wheel came close whenever he was in the TV show.
You know, it'd be a good palate cleanser. You telling us the next weirdo monstrosity thing you have going on your list?
Okay, so I have two left, I believe, right?
Yep.
Would you like to hear about a villain or about a non-villain? I feel like it would be a disservice to call this person a hero, but he's not a villain, so.
All right. Well, what do you got? I guess the villain.
Do you want to go with the villain?
I think we should go with the villain. We've been really villain focused on this.
Okay, so this guy unfortunately cannot turn into a dinosaur or a celery. In fact, well, I'll just go for it. This is another Spider-Man villain. So, Corey, you're probably not too familiar. John, let me know if you've heard of this guy.
Mm-hmm.
His name is Typeface.
God no, that doesn't ring any bells.
Okay. His real name is Gordon Thomas. That's not relevant at all.
I certainly know Thursday Rubenstein.
I know. Well, at least Thursday Rubenstein had a classic name and an orb per head. Try to guess what Typeface's powers are.
Well, I cheated and looked up a picture of him, and I hope he has powers other than just appearance.
He does not. He does not.
So he's just a dude with big hair and letters all over his face.
He is a guy who had a pretty rough time. He went to war, and when he came back, his wife and kid had left him. So he got a job as a letterer or a signsmith, I suppose, is what it was described as, a signsmith. And he lost his job after somebody bought the company he worked for and fired him. So he went mad, painted letters on his face, and then tried to get revenge on the guy who fired him in the first place. He has no powers, but he has the ability to draw letters on his own face. That is Typeface. There's very little else to him. He just doesn't seem to do a whole lot. I don't understand why somebody was like, we gotta make this guy. We gotta get a guy with letters on his face. That's really important. You know.
This is the year 2000.
Yeah, it's not that long ago. The visual medium of comics where you can do whatever. We just talked about Animal, Vegetable, Mineral Man, where half of him was a fucking dinosaur. That looks amazing, right? And then somebody was like, we'll just get a regular dude with an A on his head. There you go. That's Typeface. Don't you can see why he didn't make it into the films. That's it. There's nothing else to say about Typeface.
He's created by Paul Jenkins. I can't get over that.
Well, you know,
they can't all be winners.
That's exactly. You know, sometimes you strike out.
I guess so.
He really struck out with that guy.
Swing and a miss.
Yeah.
John, you're up next.
I'm guessing you guys may have heard of this guy, but it's a dude by the name of Madcap. Who?
Yes,
I do know that one. All right.
Yeah.
I was gonna say every time someone has said that, I have no clue.
He's started off life as a Captain America villain, as I think just like an average ordinary dude who happened to get caught in AIM's kind of efforts to destroy this fancy chemical that they'd made to try and create like a healing factor, and instead it basically accelerated people's cells so much that it basically killed them. So this just chemical got out and then killed a bunch of people on this bus, and the guy who would become Madcap was on the bus as well, but rather than killing him, it gave him it gave him like a healing factor, and basically made him invulnerable. But it also had the slight side effect of turning him insane as well, and gave him this sort of power to turn other people crazy. So he, would often just walk down the street, basically firing his little bubble gun, and that would end up driving people mad. But then, like, the big thing that happened with Madcap, and that I think was some smart writing, was back in the sort of mid 2000s, Deadpool had his ongoing series, and part of the shtick with Deadpool was he'd have like two like sort of thought boxes. He'd have a yellow thought box and a white thought box, and the yellow one was like sort of clearly Deadpool's voice, often breaking the fourth wall. But then there was a white thought box as well, which was just kind of cracking jokes and stuff. And it was eventually revealed that Madcap was the voice of that white voice box, or thought box, because apparently him and Deadpool had got into a bit of a spat, and Thor showed up on the scene and tired of both of them, so he brought down some lightning and turned them to cinders, and then when they sort of regenerated, they combined, and Madcap spent many years as part of Deadpool's mangled brain.
That's how I'm familiar with Madcap.
Yeah, I remember that reveal, reading it at the time, and thinking that was genius.
Mm-hmm.
What I looked up Madcap just as we were talking, and he came about during like one of my favorite comic book runs of all time, which is Mark Gruenwald's Captain America in the 80s. Just fantastic. It is a very weird character, and his fate is definitely the weirdest of them. But yeah, I remember the Deadpool video game that came out during like the Xbox, PlayStation 3 era features the different colored thought boxes that bicker and fight with each other. So in a way, Madcap made it to that video game.
Yeah.
There you go. There's a lot of surprising reveals with some of these characters, isn't there? They're really more popular than we think they are.
I'm going to take it back to our characters with no arms.
Yes.
Which you could think maybe this character has many arms. I'm talking about a character that is an entire planet, and it is not Ego from Marvel. I'm talking about the Green Lantern, Mogo. This one's created by Alan Moore, the genius himself. Mogo is a Green Lantern who also happens to be a giant planet. And yeah, that's Mogo. He has all the powers of a Green Lantern. His ring is basically just a giant stretched out thing across the circumference of him. And yeah, that's it. That's
it.
All I got. Mogo's a planet. He was a very big deal because his whole deal was so whenever a Green Lantern dies, their ring goes to find a suitable replacement, and Mogo was responsible for that. So he was the one that was like kind of commanding the rings to go wherever they needed to be. And yeah, Mogo died during the Blackest Night event, when a Black Lantern, John Stewart, generated a giant sniper rifle and shot Mogo and blew him up from the inside.
So what happened to his ring? If the rings go out to find somebody else worthy, then they're like, well, this guy's a big planet. What do we do? How do we get somebody close to this? A big fat guy? It's I don't know.
Well, and then see, the Green Lanterns are kind of like Legion of Superheroes. There are so many different kinds of Green Lanterns I could have picked. There is a squirrel that's very popular.
Mm-hmm.
There is a weird, goofy ass dog.
Okay.
There is an amoeba
Uh-huh.
that is a Green Lantern.
Wait. Hi.
It is an amoeba with a lot of willpower.
Right. No, but who had the ring before the amoeba?
The ring adjusts its size.
No, but I mean, like it has to, like, when somebody dies and the ring's like, I gotta find somebody equivalent of this guy. Oh, I know, an amoeba.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, that's,
You know.
that is the implication. There was an alien in Grant Morrison's recent run whose head was an exploding volcano. So, like, from the shoulders down, regular guy, but instead of a head, it was a volcano that was constantly erupting.
I like this Grant Morrison guy.
Big fan.
Mm-hmm.
So, Dylan, I guess we're on to your last one.
Well, wouldn't you know? Speaking of Grant Morrison, we have a little character created during his X-Men run, which the people who listen to this show are going to realize is one of my favorite runs in comics. I love it so much. And what I liked about that run was, well, one of the things I liked was that Grant Morrison did a thing, which we kind of touched upon with Jazz, in that there are a lot of mutants that aren't necessarily crazy powerful, shooting lasers out of their eyes, right? Some of them are just freaks. And Grant Morrison's very good at writing for freaks. So I kind of had a lot of strange characters to choose from, especially given the fact that Grant Morrison wrote in a real, like, a special class of X-Men at the school who are all a little bit, you know, kind of losers. And one of those characters was called Dummy. Do you remember Dummy?
No.
Okay. Apparently his real name was Dean Boswell. I don't even know he had a real name. But basically, Dummy was a character who, his mutant power was that he just turns, well, whenever his mutant power developed, he turned entirely into gas. So he has to wear a rubber, like a latex containment suit.
Yeah, that rings a bell.
And so inside the suit is just, he's all gas, and he doesn't really do anything. And then during the riot at the X Mansion, started by Quentin Quire and the Omega Gang, there's an explosion that shoots a pane of glass, or a shard of glass, through the containment suit of Dummy, and all the gas just evaporates into the air, and he dies. That is the story of Dummy. He doesn't do a whole lot, but, you know, we'll never forget him. What a character. What a wonderful boy. To be fair, before I wrote Dummy, I was going to put down a different character. I was going to write the No Girl.
Oh, I love No Girl.
Yeah.
Martha Johansson. But then I thought, she's kind of came back a couple of times, whereas Dummy...
Yeah, she's a main character in, well, she's not a main character, she's a featured character in one of the current comics right now.
New Mutants, I believe it is.
Yeah. Whereas Dummy was kind of like, here he is for like 4 issues and he's dead. So I feel like he was more appropriate for today's episode. You know.
Can I jump the line, John, and talk about a character that's also a bit of a dummy?
Yeah, go for it.
Brother Power the Geek.
I'm sorry, did you just say a bunch of words out of order?
Brother Power the Geek.
I still don't understand.
Hold on.
Yeah.
Brother Power.
Yes.
The Geek.
No, you lost me.
Okay. Brother Power the Geek is the takeoff of Frankenstein.
Oh, clearly.
from the 1960s, as the name, as it would kind of imply with the Brother Power part. And Brother Power was a mannequin that was dressed up in hippie clothes that got struck by lightning and then sort of became this sort of wandering poet, kind of like how Frankenstein was this, very philosophical character. And his series didn't run very long. It only made like 2 issues.
Wait, does this guy have his own series?
Yeah, Brother Power the Geek.
You keep saying the name, and the more you do, the more I get confused.
Yep, Brother Power the Geek, issue number 1, October 1968. Yeah, no, the sales were okay, which is, the sales were modest,
which is surprising in itself.
Not a popular character among the staff. Apparently the character, like the people who worked for DC, hated the character, mainly because they were they were not of the hippie subculture, so they did not care for Brother Power the Geek. They felt that he was because this is the 1960s, hippies weren't as kind of I don't think they were ever really truly embraced, but 1968 they sure as hell weren't. Mm-hmm. So yeah, they got rid of him very quickly. He turned up in Neil Gaiman's Swamp Thing, and also popped up in Grant Morrison's Animal Man. So it's a character that is so strange and weird. Basically, a living mannequin that has like super strength and durability and shit. But yeah, Brother Power the Geek.
Please stop saying the name.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, it's a fun one.
It's something, all right.
Absolutely. So, John, you got one more?
Yeah, I mean, we're all wrestling fans, so I wanted to go for someone from the Unlimited Class Wrestling Federation, which was like sort of a big thing in like the, I believe, Captain America run in the 80s, where
that's right,
it was sort of inspired by the WWF boom at the time and everything. But all these guys had superpowers basically, so you'd have like the Thing fighting there, Songbird, like I believe, is it Icarus from the Eternals, and all these other like superpowered characters. But one of the guys who stood out to me, even though he's not the most obscure because he's been in like lots and lots of comics over the years, but it's Armadillo.
Oh yeah.
Just because he's such a like tragic character, because he basically he gets his powers by like going to this criminal scientist called Dr. Carl Malice.
Dr. Malice, how could you not trust that name?
Yeah, and he was he'd offered up himself in exchange for a cure for his wife, who was sick with some sort of disease or something. And so yeah, Malice cured his wife, and then combined his DNA with that of an armadillo, and turned into this big hulking creature. And then things just kept going wrong for him. So like shortly after Dr. Malice had been put away and Armadillo was free to do what he wanted, he goes and joins the UCWF, but then finds out that his wife, who he's just turned into a monster for, is like seeing another man behind his back. And then over the years he's constantly trying to find a cure for his condition, and like he keeps getting coerced into joining all these villains groups to help them out in return for like the promise of a cure. And like not only that, but like all these heroes and stuff who he's, who are supposed to be doing the right thing and helping people, they don't ever offer to help him, like, get his cure as well. So he's just like a really sad sack, miserable character who's had it pretty rough over the years. And I there was like a Captain America run within the last 10 years or so where he kept popping up, and they kind of played that into the storyline of it as well. But I think he still didn't get his cure, so yeah,
Still
poor
just
guy.
being armadillo, man.
Yeah.
He was recently the Build-A-Figure for a wave of Marvel Legends figures.
Oh wow.
So if you buy 5 different regular sized Marvel characters, you can build your own armadillo.
What a disappointment that would be.
He also doesn't seem like he'd be very happy about it either. So before we, I guess, sign off, do you have any honorable mentions that you have on your list that you get a chance to talk about?
But like I said, I was gonna talk about No Girl, but then I thought, there's no point in that. I feel like there was another character. I don't really know a whole lot about him though, but I feel like Corey, you might be able to help me out here because I believe this was a Grant Morrison creation as well. But wasn't there a character that was just like the living street?
Oh, Danny the Street, yeah.
Yes.
Doom Patrol.
Yeah. I'm like, that's pretty
Yeah.
weird, right?
Yeah, Danny the Street is a street that is transgender. So again, you have to realize this is like 1980s, 90s Doom Patrol. And so Danny is a street. They are sentient. And what makes how Grant presented their gender identity was there would be like stores that sold like guns, but they would have like pink window dressings. But yeah, Danny the Brick lived on. I think at one point somebody blew up somebody blew up Danny the Street, and then Danny returned as Danny the Brick, where they put their consciousness inside of a brick that was part of the street. And then Danny the Brick became Danny the Bungalow that Crazy Jane lived in for a while. And then Danny the Bungalow recently turned up in Gerard Way's from My Chemical Romance, his Doom Patrol run, as Danny the Ambulance. And then it was revealed that Danny the Ambulance actually was just a component of Danny World, an entire world of Danny.
Okay.
Where one of the main characters of Doom Patrol, it was revealed that she was just a character in a comic book that was sold in one of the comic book stores on Danny World.
Okay. So that took
Love
a turn
Doom Patrol,
it wasn't
man.
expected.
Love Doom Patrol. One of my favorite comics and characters. I guess mine. This will end on kind of just a note, I'm sure, but I just love it. This character existed. So we're going back to 1942 or 1940. In Crack Comics #1, which was then consolidated into DC, Madame Fatal. Madame Fatal is an old woman who solves crimes and mysteries. She is skilled with her cane. She has high-level intelligence and intuition, superior investigative skills. But here's the twist. Madame Fatal, in reality, is handsome, pipe-smoking, professional actor Richard Stanton, who disguises himself as an old woman to do all of his crime fighting.
Makes sense.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Huh.
And that is our show of weird, obscure characters. Dylan, if you had to come up with a superhero team name for these characters, what would you call them?
Too many arms.
The arms.
right? There's too many arms.
John, what about you? What would you call him?
I'd say Hell Cow's Hell Patrol.
It's pretty
Hell
good.
Patrol.
Actually, that's pretty good.
I would call them the Avengers.
That's good. I don't know if we can get the trademark for that though.
All right. Well, I'll call them the West Coast Avengers.
That should be fine.
Yeah.
What about the Great Lakes Avengers? That's probably all right.
I think that one's taken.
Ah, well, forget it then.
All right. Well, that's our show. If you have any weird characters or obscure characters, like I said, I mean, anyone from the Legion of Superheroes, any Green Lantern, any mutant character probably could very easily have fit in this discussion. I think even Ghost Rider had some weird fucking villains out there. If there's any coming to mind that we didn't cover or that we should know about, by all means, please leave a comment or find Dylan on Twitter while he still has it and DM him a picture of them. Unprovoked. Just a picture of them. No explanation. And yeah, we'll be back next time with episode 4 with the we're the Smark Avengers, we're the Good Boys Reading Comics, we're Pasta Boy, we are the Chuckle Hut, and we'll see you all next time. Goodbye, lovelies.
Goodbye.
Bye.